ne sais pas si je suis live là. Je pense que si. En tout cas, je vous souhaite tous bonsoir. On verra. Non, si. Je suis live là. Alors, bonsoir tout le monde. J'espère que vous allez bien. J'espère que la rentrée se passe bien pour vous tous. Et j'espère que vous n'êtes pas trop, comment dire, anxieuse pour ceux qui sont féminins. On dit anxieux pour les garçons, on dit anxieuse pour les femmes ou les filles. So remember, with all your adjectives, you have a masculine and a feminine form, and adjectives would be fiercely important for you to know for both junior and leaving cert. So I hope that you're all back, that it's gone okay for you, that you're not too anxious. Dans mon école, les garçons, parce que c'est une école pour garçons uniquement, ils sont tous obligés de porter des masques. Et je peux vous dire que ça se passe bien en ce moment parce que c'est vraiment pour la santé de tout le monde, c'est pour le bien-être. That's a nice word actually. Le bien-être de tout le monde, the well-being of everyone. So the lads are all wearing their masks and it's going fine for the moment. Et alors, touchez le bois parce que, en espérant que cela va durer. Moi, je pense honnêtement que ce serait bien dommage de fermer les écoles parce que quand les écoles sont fermées, moi je pense que la société tombe un petit peu en vrac. Hein? So I think that when schools are closed, that society kind of falls apart a little bit. Parce que nous avons besoin de cette discipline. Les enfants, ils ont besoin d'être éduqués. So kids, students, they need to be educated. It's so important that where possible, we will keep our schools open. C'est vrai qu'il y aura des occasions où on sera bien obligé de fermer une école ou deux pour une semaine ou deux, mais je pense que vraiment un confinement national, ce n'est pas dans les intérêts de qui que ce soit. So I think that a complete lockdown or un confinement is not in the interests of anyone. So, okay, the couple of things that I want to say to you, okay? So, ce soir, au début, je pensais que je pouvais faire un live 2 fois par semaine. Alors, moi, j'ai regardé mon emploi de temps, j'ai regardé un petit peu ce que je fais et ma disponibilité. Ma disponibilité is my availability. Et franchement, je peux vous dire que vraiment, jeudi soir, c'est le seul soir de la semaine où je peux vraiment faire quelque chose. So I think that Thursday is really the only night that I'm going to be able to do something. Okay, why am I doing these lives? Okay, for a couple of reasons. It's a nice way to kind of keep in touch, and also a lot of students avail of online lessons, right? But not all students can afford them. Not all students can avail of them. They don't always suit the evenings that they're on. Students could be doing other things. So I suppose it's my way of giving a little bit of help to students around the country, okay? As usual, I would appreciate your feedback. I'd love for you to leave a comment or a review on our Facebook page if there's something that you found particularly useful, or indeed if there's something that you'd like us to do better. Please do send me comments. I'm delighted to get any kind of feedback. It's really important, okay? Alors ce soir, je vais parler de 2 choses en particulier. Je vais parler du blog. Alors, c'est une nouvelle forme de l'écriture pour le brevet. So, the blog is a new type of writing for the junior cert. Et puis, je vais parler un petit peu de comment structurer une rédaction. So, that's like an opinion piece for leaving cert. So, I'm going to cut the live in 2 parts, okay? I'm not going to spend a whole pile of time on it, but I'm just going to explain a little bit, okay? So, on va commencer par le brevet, on va commencer par le blog. Hein? Et alors, qu'est-ce que c'est un blog? So what is a blog? Well, a blog is basically a little bit of personal writing, and you would be well aware of bloggers and vloggers and all the rest of it. We're not requiring vloggers just yet, but blogging definitely is something that students would be very familiar with, okay? It's obviously new generation stuff. Blogs did not exist in any shape or form when I was going to school. Then again, the internet didn't exist, so there, I'm giving my age again. But the blog is basically you're writing from maybe a holiday destination or something And generally they're going to keep it easy enough. I think they're going to keep it around the holiday theme, okay? That you're somewhere on holidays and you're writing a little quick blog to let your friends or your followers on Instagram or wherever it might be, just a little few words to say how you're getting on, okay? So again, the most important point, okay, is, and I've said it at teachers, MFL teachers will know cluster days that we've done. Look, the French language has not changed, even though there has been a change to the structure of the paper. The actual French language has not changed, okay? But in the written, what they are looking for is clarity of expression, okay? So it means the way you write, that it has to be clear, that you cover the points that that you're given in the paper, and that you use correct grammar with very few faults, and try and get your spellings right and things like that, okay? So it hasn't changed at all from postcards and all the rest of it, okay? What they test generally are the three tenses, okay? The three main tenses are the present, the past, and the future, okay? So for a blog, we're going to look at maybe a blog from a campsite, okay? And this was the lesson I did with my third years this week on my Zoom class, right? So what we did was we looked at campsite. Now what I suggest you do is that you get vocabulary all about campsite, and you will find it in all of your textbooks, right? And you basically go through that vocabulary, and then what you'd say is, for example, you could start your blog with "Me voici ici en France dans un camping." So, "Me voici en France." Here I am in France in a campsite. Or "Me voici en Espagne avec ma famille au bord de la mer." So here I am in Spain at the seaside with my family. But if we're talking camping, generally you'd associate France with camping, okay? So let's say it's a campsite. So what are you talking about? What would you find in a campsite? You'd say, je suis, par exemple, je suis ici avec ma famille. So you'd mention who you're on holidays with. You'd say when you arrived. Je suis arrivé, and be careful of the verb arriver. It's going to go with the verb être, which être, as you know, is the king of the verbs. Every time you see être in a sentence, there has to be agreement. So if it's, let's say, a girl writing it, she'd say je suis arrivée, and she'd put an e there after the EAQ, she'd put an extra e. But if it's a boy writing, you'd say je suis arrivé, okay? So, je suis arrivée avec ma famille la semaine dernière. Now remember, la semaine, and you're saying last week, so it's dernière. So dernière has to agree with semaine. So you can put your extra e there. So, je suis arrivée avec ma famille la semaine dernière. Et nous restons une semaine. We're staying for 1 week, okay? Or 2 weeks or whatever it is. So then you kind of talk about the campsite, okay? Because le camping est situé au bord de la mer, est situé près d'un forêt, near a forest, est situé près d'un lac. On peut dire que le camping est tout près de la plage. It's very close, tout près de la plage, very close to the beach. So there you're talking about where the campsite is situated. You could say, dans ce camping, on peut trouver, you could say, there is or there are. Il y a 2 piscines, un terrain comment dire, de foot. On peut dire, il y a un cours de tennis, il y a un restaurant, un supermarché, une laverie, you know, un bloc sanitaire, everything that you find in a campsite, and you could write all that, okay? You could then say something that you maybe did yesterday, okay? So you could say, hier, nous sommes allés, remember you've got to make your agreement the whole time, so you're going to be adding an S on aller. So nous sommes allés à la plage. J'ai fait de la natation, because remember they're testing. J'ai fait de la natation, F-A-I-T. It's the verb faire and it's irregular. It's got an irregular past participle. So j'ai fait de la natation. J'ai joué avec mes amis. So you could use things like that, okay? Then it would be really good if you made a reference to something in the future, okay? So a good one would be demain, Now you're using your expression of time, so you'd say tomorrow, demain, j'irai au marché. So I will go to the market, or j'irai en ville, or j'irai faire une excursion touristique avec ma famille. So I will go. And if you're using j'irai, it's always preferable to using je vais aller, because you're showing the examiner that you've gone to the trouble of learning the future, okay, the future simple. The other one's the future proche, which is fine, and if you're stuck, please use it, but it would be nice to show the examiner that you know it, or je visiterai, or nous visiterons le marché, nous visiterons la vieille ville de La Rochelle, for example. We will visit the old town of La Rochelle, which is actually a beautiful part of France. And that's kind of all you'd say. And then you'd kind of personalize it by saying, j'ai hâte de te revoir à mon retour. So I can't wait. J'ai hâte de. It's an expression, avoir hâte de. I'll put it in the comments below, I think, afterwards. J'ai hâte de te voir quand je retournerai, or de mon retour, when I come home. And then you'd write something like à bientôt, or à plus, or à la prochaine fois, or whatever it is that you're going to say at the end of it, okay? And that's really it for blog entry. You know, I mean, it's not rocket science, it's just a different way of discussing what you know in French and how to put that in paper, okay? So that is your blog. Now, I had a Zoom class the other night on, was it last night? God, the nights. And I did all about flooding, okay, with 6th years. So it was on l'environnement. Là, je passe au bac, hein? So I'm going to the Leaving Cert now. Et on va parler un petit peu de la production écrite, et on va parler d'une rédaction sur les catastrophes naturelles. So we're going to talk about how you would construct an opinion piece if you were given something on natural disasters, right? Now, the last time that there was a piece on natural disasters was in 2007, and there was a question, and the question was, faisons-nous assez pour aider les pays ravagés par les catastrophes naturelles? So, are we doing enough to help countries ravagés, ravaged, or destroyed by natural disasters? Okay? So, as I've said to my own students, and as I keep reiterating, if you saw my Facebook Lives last year, this will come as absolutely no surprise to you. I always work with a rule of 5, okay? In an opinion piece. Now, first and foremost, please, this is so important. Your teacher is the person that you must refer to for your opinion pieces, for your diary entries, for your narratives. I'm only giving the way I do it. Your teacher knows you best, and your teacher will be the one that will advise you properly, okay? This is just advice. Some of you I know are doing the Leaving Cert on your own. Not the Leaving Cert, but French on your own as an extra subject. So obviously you can take this and work with this, okay? So what I suggest you do is you think about the question, okay? So, faisons-nous assez pour aider les pays ravagés par la catastrophe naturelle? So, are we doing enough to help countries ravaged by natural disasters? There's actually quite a lot going on in that particular question, okay? And in your answer, you must refer to the question, okay? So it's called exploitation of stimulus material. That's what it means. It means refer to the question. They could have said refer to the question, but you know what? Exploitation of stimulus material sounds so much nicer. So what you need to do is you'd say, for example, you'd give a general statement, is what I always say, right? And you'd kind of say, nous vivons dans un monde où il y a beaucoup de pays qui sont détruits ou qui souffrent à cause des catastrophes naturelles, comme les tremblements de terre, comme les inondations, comme les glissements de boue. You know, so it could be a landslide, it could be an earthquake, it could be une tornade, it could be une tempête, it could be an ouragan. You know, it could be a hurricane. Like we had a hurricane, was it Storm Ophelia that caused all the damage? I can't really remember the name of it, but I know that we've had our share of flooding in Ireland, especially. I mean, it was only on the news the other night. It was up in Connemara, and I felt so sorry in such a beautiful part of the country. Mais en tout cas, quand vous êtes obligé, quand vous avez quelque chose à écrire en français, c'est très important d'essayer de faire quelque chose qui a une bonne construction, hein, une bonne structure, et que vous essayez de respecter comment dire, la structure. So we're going to start. So we're going to say something general. So we're going to refer to natural disaster, and we're going to say, yeah, that in the world we're living in, a lot of countries are destroyed by natural disasters, such as earthquakes, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Then you need to come on to your main point, okay? And your main point is basically, do we do enough as a country? Or do we do enough? And I would say yes, because l'Irlande est l'une des nations les plus généreuses par tête d'habitant. So we are one of the most generous nations per head of population. Okay, so that is a fact. Okay, à chaque fois qu'il y a une crise quelque part dans le monde, qu'il y ait une catastrophe, quoi que ce soit, l'Irlande est toujours à l'avant pour donner de l'aide. À l'avant, être à l'avant is to be to the forefront in giving help. So we can talk about that, and you can talk about that point. So that's your main point. Okay. What I then do is I try and think of a counterpoint. Okay, because this kind of comes in really nice as your third part, okay? So you could say that even though we're very generous, sometimes the money doesn't get to les zones sinistrées, right? The disaster areas. Les zones sinistrées is a nice word as well, or a nice expression. It just means that il y a beaucoup de corruption dans ces pays, et quelquefois il y a un détournement de fonds. A détournement de fonds means kind of the money is whipped before it gets to the people. So you kind of talk about that as your counter argument. So even though, yes, we do enough to help these countries, unfortunately, we do so much and then the system blocks because either of a corrupt government or impossibility of bringing in the medication and supplies to where it's needed. And you could kind of talk about, you could nearly say, just mention in passing, heureusement, il y a des drones qui peuvent nous aider dans cette démarche. You know, that you could talk about that the drones can help sometimes in this, okay? Now, the fourth part of your opinion piece is exceptionally important, okay? Extremely, extremely important. You must personalize it, okay? So you could say, personnellement, je crois que, je pense que, je suis de l'avis que, titre personnel, pour ma part, pour être honnête, je dois dire que, you know, but as long as you get that je in, because it's you, right? So you could then make a very simple point and say that, for example, every time that there's a natural disaster, your school makes a collection, or your family believes that it's very, very important to help these people, or you personally feel that it's so important to help. You know, whatever it is that you want to put in, just personalize it. It's so, so important. And finally, the fifth part, okay, is your conclusion. Now, I know your examiners are not fools, right? And they know that when they get to the end of your document, they know that's the end, right? But you know what? When you're writing a piece, okay? It's a formal register of writing an opinion piece. So you have to say, pour conclure, en conclusion, toute chose considérée, toute réflexion faite, pour finir, pour terminer, enfin, finalement. All these kind of words that shows the examiner, guess what, I've just come on to my last point. You may have copied it because there's no more writing, but it's nice to kind of put it together nicely for your examiner, okay? And then you'd say, on a vu que la situation dans le monde aujourd'hui est vraiment dramatique parce qu'il y a tellement de pays qui souffrent à cause des catastrophes. And then what you could do is you get in your subjunctive. all right? And what I always do is I tend to, if it's something political or it's something about homelessness or something about the economy or whatever, do you know what? Just blame the government. It's grand. They're used to it. They're not going to give out to you. So you could say, il faut que le gouvernement fasse un plus ou un peu plus pour aider ceux qui sont dans le besoin ou ceux qui sont touchés par. Now that's a nice one, qui sont touchés par. That's affected by, not just touched by, but affected by ce genre de catastrophes, ces phénomènes naturels, ces désastres, tout ça. C'est très très important de vraiment reprendre la question et si vous n'avez pas de solution, parce qu'il n'y a pas toujours de solution, mais on peut au moins dire il faut qu'on fasse plus pour aider ces gens, il faut qu'on agisse, il faut qu'on agisse pour essayer de résoudre ce problème. So we need to act to résoudre ce problème, cette situation, ce catastrophe, you know, whatever it is, but you're kind of saying that we need to do more. And if you can push a little bit of subjunctive, the way the examiner, it's always welcome. Personally speaking, I love subjunctive. I can't overestimate the importance of the subjunctive for the very simple reason the French use it an awful lot. Okay, it's used in French an awful lot. So voilà, c'est tout pour ce soir. J'espère que ça vous avait plu. So again, look, that is it for this evening. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for listening. I will be back, hopefully. Look, if I'm going to be doing a Facebook Live, it will be on a Thursday evening. If I'm not around by 7, it just means something has cropped up and I'm not going to get to it. But I'm going to try where possible to get it done. I would love for you to send your suggestions, send your comments, send your questions. If you have a particular question that you'd like me to cover, send it to me. I'd love to get it. And, you know, in the meantime, please go on to Frenchnotes.ie, take a look through some of the resources. We have some free revision notes that you can take a look at. If you're interested in attending any of my Zoom classes, I only do 3rd year, 5th year and 6th year, but if you're interested in it, just let me know, give me a quick DM, and otherwise please tell your friends that we're going to be doing this, and it's just a little bit of help. Et voilà, je vous souhaite bonne soirée. Alors là, je vais essayer de terminer. Voilà.